Guess what we saw? Well, you know you clicked on it.
Or you can just look down.
Comment below.
This is the real Aquaman.
More like Iceman.
Aqua Frozen Man.
Yeah, pretty much. So we saw Aquaman because we thought that today would still be half price day because it's Tuesday, but it's also New Year's Day, so...
Yeah, so we found out after we got the popcorn made and everything, so we were not going to be able to see Bumblebee as well.
Yeah, because we actually had it timed out that we would hit Aquaman and then we'd have about 10 to 15 minutes to get more food or use the toilet or something and then watch Bumblebee. But your mom was like, £1 million, please. We were like, oh shit, it's not.
Well, I went, shit, because I was all like, I'll pay for the first film and you'd pay for the second one. I'm like, oh, god damn it.
You owed me like £10 anyway. And then I topped up the electric this morning, so. Because the cool thing is, in a lot of places in Northern Ireland, you don't get billed monthly for your electric. It's basically like you either go to like, a corner shop or something and you buy a top up, or you top it up with your, like I top it up on my phone, and then it emails you a code, and then you run downstairs, put the code in, and it puts more money on the machine, so I actually like that a lot better.
That's common in the UK.
Well, in America, you usually get billed a month after the fact, so if you didn't realize you were using as much electric as you were, especially in the winter or the summer for air conditioning, it can be kind of painful. And you're like, fuck, how do I pay the electric? Because then if you don't pay it, I think you have a month's grace, and then they will shut you off. So I learned because I had a roommate who was like, oh, we'll put the electric in my name and just give me money, and then I did, and then she didn't pay it. I went to New Jersey to see her family for the weekend, and our power got shut off. And it was off all weekend. And I had to go stay with my parents. But anyway, so we saw Aquaman. What are you doing? It's not Christmas, though.
Oh, no.
Why are things falling on me? No.
This looks like the undersea world in Aquaman.
It actually does. Alright, so I guess the...
Under the sea.
What's falling on me?
Under the sea.
So...
Downwards brighter, downwards righter. Take it from me.
That sounds like supremacist talk. Fish supremacists. So we really enjoyed Black Panther fish and chips. Okay, so spoiler-free part first. It was really beautiful. Like, visually. Like, art direction, cinematography.
Production design was spectacular.
So, if they get nominated for a technical Academy Award, I would not be at all surprised.
You know, if Suicide Squad can get an Oscar for special makeup, Aquaman should get it for that.
Because, so that part was A+. Weirdly, as far as I was concerned, here's the thing. I don't know much about Aquaman. I don't care. I remember vaguely there was that cartoon, there was the Justice League cartoon, which had the Wonder Twins, who were always turning into nothing useful.
Oh, Super Friends?
I guess so. That I watched when I was, like, really teeny, like, between the ages of, like, 4 and 5.
Me probably misremembering that cartoon is why in my reviews, I always, when I say meanwhile, somewhere I always go, meanwhile, because it was meanwhile in the Hall of Justice.
Alright. So, he was just kind of there, and he would ride on tuna fish sometimes. And so, I really don't like the DCEU as much as I like Marvel.
No.
Yeah. And so, I went to this, and I'm like, nah, and we saw Movie Bob's review, and he was like, it's goofy fun, so if you go with it, then you'll enjoy it. I was like, alright, that's fair enough. But weirdly enough, Aquaman was the worst thing about the movie. Because he's just kind of like this bro. He's kind of like that one coworker that can be a real jerk, but then he'll be like, oh, what? Your car broke down on your lunch break? Here, hop into my truck, we'll tow it back. So he like kind of does some good stuff for you, but then he'd also would probably make like really like sexist jokes as well, you know?
So basically it's Jason Momoa.
Yeah. Also, knowing what I know about him, I'm like, even worse.
Basically,
it was too long as well.
Character-wise, Aquaman, he strikes me as, well, he's pretty much the same as he was in Justice League and Batman vs. Superman. Although he was in Batman vs. Superman a tiny bit. But he's like the edgy 90s Aquaman, but like a kid's show version. Because that one, he's got like one hand, his hand's cut off, and he's like really, really raging and killing stuff. But so like he's like that. But
save the dolphins!
He had long hair and a beard and everything, and he would strategically wear armor, like so be like shirtless and stuff. So he's like that, but adapted for a kids film, which basically probably what they were going for.
Yeah, so, but people who were good in it. There were a lot of really cool cameos, like some voice work.
Yeah.
Because you were like, wait a second, I know that crab.
Is that John Rhys Davies?
And it was.
And then there was, I recognized the leader of the Philosopher Fish people, but then I looked at the end credits and was like, Yeoman Hansu, I should have recognized you. You were in Deep Rising, where you said, money, 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 and got an axe in your fucking head. And then later on, you were in Guardians of the Galaxy, whenever Chris Pratt said, Star-Lord. He's like, who? He's also in Captain Marvel. It's like,
Yeoman Hansu. He gets around.
Yeoman Hansu, I tell you, if they'd made Black Panther 10 years ago, he would have been much better than Chadwick Boseman, because he's authentically African, and he's authentically, like, tall, muscular as fuck, charismatic as fuck. The fact that Yeoman Hansu did not star in a superhero franchise is fucking terrible. Guy had charisma to burn.
Right. And there was Julie Andrews had a cameo?
Yes. Giant killer Julie Andrews.
That's pretty cool. And see, I have really bad facial recognition. That's why I'm always going like, hey, it's that person. And she'll be like, famous person? I'll be like, right. And so, like, the whole intro is happening. I'm like, that's Nicole Kidman, right? Yes. Okay, I thought it looked like Nicole Kidman.
I'm just thinking about it. There's a big list of people who should have played Black Panther. Because Yeoman Hansu 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it should have been Henry Sella, who played Shaka Zulu in the 1980s, he died about 20 years ago. But he would have been amazing. This guy, such intensity. He's like Grace Jones intense, and Grace Jones plays Shaka Zulu's wife in a later Shaka Zulu TV movie, which I've yet to see, but I imagine the screen melts every time they're on screen because fucking hell, the intensity.
Alright, so do you want to move on from...
Oh, Dolph Lundgren's in it.
Yeah!
Okay, one of the unsung parts, or great bit things about being a film director, I assume, is that you have a list of actors. You obviously love film.
Let me go through my Rolodex of famous people.
Well, not so much that as, well, you're a film director, so if you're a big budget film director, you're already working with famous people.
Yeah.
What you would do is go through actors that you like, who you've seen in stuff before you'd like to work with, or you haven't seen very often. Like, Quentin Tarantino runs on this concept. He's just like, I haven't seen Kurt Russell in a cool movie recently. Hey, Kurt, do you want to be in Death Proof? That sort of thing. But with this one, I get the feeling that James Wan was like, you know what? I haven't seen Dolph Lundgren in a while. He's like, and then another bit, he's like,
Dolphin.
It's like, you know what? Julie Andrews is semi-retired. I'd love to put her in the film. Are there any roles left? Oh, just a 700-foot tall killer sea monster. Done! Because if I was in a big film, I would find random excuses to put Colin Baker in it. This is why Sylvester McCoy ended up in The Hobbit.
You'd probably be able to talk him into it only if you gave him his own personal assistant to all handle his tech issues. Because I follow Colin Baker, he's my favorite doctor, and I follow him on Twitter, and he is always having technical issues. Like, he's always, publicly raging against some company that's not helping him fix his tech issues or hasn't delivered something and said that they would, and it's really fantastic because it's like, your dad kind of problems.
It's like, use a sonic screwdriver, and he has to remind people on Twitter whenever they suggest that.
One time he was having trouble with, he had to download iTunes and, sync an Apple device, and he replied back to his own thread, if one more person tells me to reverse the polarity, I swear to God.
See, the great thing, Colin Baker, he's one of only 2 doctors that never, ever used the sonic screwdriver on screen. Actually, he might be the only one who never did, because since 1 turned up in that one with 12, so he might have. Yeah. But 6... never used it.
None of that.
So that's why Colin Bacon just be like, I can't use the sonic screwdriver. They blew it up when I was Peter Davison.
It doesn't work for me.
But also Graham McTavish.
It was a firmware update, and I just can't.
But Graham McTavish was in this too. I recognized him just in these little silent shots of him as King Atlan. I was like, holy fuck, it's Graham McTavish, and you're like, who the fuck's that?
No, you played one of the dwarves. Didn't
he played Dwalin.
Yeah, because I recognized his nose.
Yep. I
saw him in profile, and I was like, that's one of the dwarves from The Hobbit. He's got a huge nose. Sorry, dude. But you know that, though. You know that. You don't need me to tell you.
He was also Warden Ackerman in Red Dwarf Series 8.
Well, then.
Smeghead's Guide coming shortly. He also was in The Wicker Tree, the long-belated sequel to the original Wicker Man. No, the crap sequel to the good Wicker Man, not the crap remake. Graham McTavish, the voice of Dante in the Dante's Inferno God of War ripoff video game. Just like, Graham McFucking-Tavish, yeah.
So should we go to spoiler stuff?
Yes.
Okay, so I feel like they saw Marvel and they were like, oh, so you have a complicated young African-American man as a villain who has a really, really great nuanced reason to be a villain. Well, shit, we gotta get us some of that. Because here's the thing, like, so you meet Black Manta in the first bit of the movie, and it's two very short scenes that very concisely set up all of his motivation, and you understand perfectly, and you're like, wow, yeah, okay, that was great script writing. That was very short. Here's your your lineage that you come from. I'm not like lineage, but here's your reason. That's a perfectly good reason because Aquaman basically murders your father. So yeah, go to it, buddy.
Yeah, it's basically the deepest villain probably in a DC film ever.
Yeah, and the Atlanteans keep being like, here, we'll give you gold, you humans love it. He's like, no, I don't even want gold at this point. I just want revenge.
And while the other big villain, Orm, is basically it's like an inverse of the Thor Loki thing. So you've got the pure blood son who's all blonde and stuff is the crap one who's racist against the semi brother who's not pure
underwater Draco Malfoy.
So yeah, with Thor, you've got you got
King Arion of Atlantis.
Yeah,
I was thinking that the whole time.
But those two, they've made it the Thor Loki relationship less problematic because in Thor you've got the blonde haired blue eyed son is the good son who's noble and he's pure, while you've got the one who's not pure is evil and malicious and sort of against him. So that's problematic. While this one inverts it, so you've got the outsider one who is the true one.
Half-breed, tattoos, beard.
Yeah, so that was good.
At least only an occasional man bun. I don't like that look. Oh, and also it was surprisingly heartwarming to see Willem Dafoe as a good guy. Because you're so ready for it. You're so, it's Willem Dafoe. Oh, he's up to no good. He's Willem Dafoe, and he's like, actually, I'm really loyal and pure and heartwarming, actually. And to see him smile without any malice behind it, I was like, whoa. It's like when I saw Moulin Rouge, and I was like, oh my god, John Leguizamo can act.
I knew John Leguizamo, as far as I'm concerned, ever since the early 90s.
I just always ended up seeing him in really bad, stupid movies.
Like The Pest.
Yeah.
But as basically since the early to mid 90s, I've been convinced that John Leguizamo is one of the best actors alive.
Well, yeah, isn't he all I remember us having a conversation about this years ago, and apparently that he is all into teaching drama to children and stuff like that, and helping to advance people. And
I just think there's something in the water in Puerto Rico because you got John Turturro, John Leguizamo, and Raul Julia. It's three of the best actors of the last 50 years, all Puerto Rican. Yeah. So it's good work, Puerto Rico. You're doing something right.
Yeah, but it was so... And he plays, the vizier, who is treacherous against the king, but it's because the king's an asshole and he has the nation's heart and mind. You're whoa, I wasn't ready for that trope.
It's inverting that trope, very, very nice.
And you know what I want to have? If I ever, get back to fiction writing... I do want there to be in whatever, because I kick around the idea of a superhero universe from time to time. I really do want there to be a very famous porn, kind of like Deep Throat or like Debbie Does Dallas, but called the Lighthouse Keeper, yeah. I was thinking there was one concise word for that. Because it's all, they fuck everyone! How many movies, how many stories are there where it's the lighthouse keeper and mysterious woman?
In the last few months, we've watched 2 movies that feature lighthouse keepers, and both times they end up fucking fishwoman.
They do. And so here's the thing,
the other one was Cold Skin, where it was a horror and he was raping her, and then the other mer people were coming to try and kill him, but it's French or Spanish.
And there were 2.
And the lighthouse keeper was played by Ray Stevenson, so this guy's Django Fett, so you can totally understand him hooking up with Nicole Kidman, but Ray Stevenson, he's the best version of the Punisher, but he's not going to consensual fish sex.
So if anyone is creative and wants to mock up a title or a DVD cover for one of the most famous classic pornos in my superhero universe, the horny lighthouse
creature.
And also the thing I liked is his dad was just kind of there. He wasn't always imparting great wisdom or shit.
I'm a guy.
Like the uncle from Superman.
You mean Spider-Man?
No. The his adopted dad.
Oh, Miss Parkhand.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if he called them aunt or uncle or mom and dad. And
They were
all
adopted
blurs
parents.
together. I'm not good at DC.
No,
but yeah, he's like, hold on a second, son. We need to have a 10-minute scene where I like basically read, an inspirational book to you.
No. The Superman's dad, at least in the Snyder ones, was definitely not inspirational. He was like,
no, but he tried to be. He's like, listen, let me tell you. And then you'll remember this in flashbacks in several successive movies.
And then he kept failing, yeah.
So I'm Kevin Costner, and they pay a lot of money for me. But yeah, he was just like, hey, let's have shots. And Aquaman's like, shots.
But the superhero with the family member fits the archetype you're talking about most perfectly is Uncle Ben from Spider-Man. He is literally there to impart to Peter that, with great power comes great responsibility, and then die to inspire him to become Spider-Man.
Yeah, but like...
That's it.
But Aquaman's dad didn't even say that. He didn't say one inspirational thing.
I know, that's what I'm
And
saying.
I like that.
I
because
know.
people aren't inspirational in real life.
I know the trope you're complaining about. I'm saying that's the example of it.
Yeah. No, but I liked that. And I liked that at spoilers, well, you're in the spoiler part, is at the end, like, we were actually walking home, and I said, wow, I can't believe it, a superhero with an intact parental dyad at the end. Well, I guess the Wasp.
Yeah, and Thor in Thor 1.
Yeah. I suppose they could always die in the next movie, but...
Superman's parents were alive in Lois and Clark. I think they might have been alive in one of the earlier sort of things before that. Not the Chris Reeve, I think they died in that, but...
Yeah.
It's not very common.
No, and that made me feel happy, but... Alright, so... This was too long. It was 2.5 hours long, and I had to pee, and there was still an hour left, and I was like, oh, come on, get on with it. But,
I imagine all the water happening on screen didn't help.
No, that actually didn't really... That the kind of thing doesn't affect me.
Okay, good.
Like, some people can't hear running water, it makes them want to pee, but I wasn't toilet trained like that. So, because that's a natural human thing, but also a lot of parents capitalize on that when they toilet train their kids to make them, give them a lot of salty snacks, they give them a lot of water, and then they run the water to make the kid want to pee. And so it's kind of like half evolutionary, but half conditioning as well. I was never conditioned that way. I was voluntarily toilet trained because I wanted attention and praise.
Okay.
Well, no, that's exactly how it happened. I have a cousin this is not related to Aquaman at all. But there's a part where he offers to pee on something, so it kind of is. And so my cousin Jessie was I think she's about 4 or 5 months older than me. And so I remember being out and we were all at Carter's Baby Outlet. It was me and my Aunt Vicky and my cousin Jessie. I think Aunt Phyllis, but Phyllis didn't have any kids yet then because she and Phil hadn't got married. And so Jessie was being toilet trained. And so we all had to go into the toilet and be like, yay, use the potty, yay. And we were driving home. And my mom's, I half remember this kind of, but it's also one of those stories that I've been told by my mom, that I was very quiet and I said, Jessie used the potty. My mom said, yes, she did. I said, we all clapped and cheered. Mom said, yes, we did. And she goes, and then you got very thoughtful, and then you looked at me with like little conniving eyes and said, if I used the potty, would everybody clap and cheer for me? And my mom, who has she has a PhD in clinical psychology. Her master's is in educational developmental psychology. She saw an opportunity, and she goes, sure, yeah. If you used the potty, we'd be cheering for you all the time. And I said, I see. And I could wear underpants, couldn't I? And I was like, you could wear whatever kind of underpants you want. And I said, with boats and planes and trains on them. Mom was like, yeah, sure. And so, I mean, she ended up, the only underpants with boats and trains and planes she could find of them was like wee little boys' underwear from Toys R Us. But the thing was that I was the driving force behind toilet training because I wanted praise and attention. And that kind of tells you all you really need to know about me, doesn't it? So Aquaman. I
did like that James Wan seemed to be distancing as much as possible from Justice League and Batman vs Superman, because Aquaman seemed to have a connection with the West Coast of America. This time he's in New England instead of Washington State, wherever it was that Bruce found him in Justice League. He pointedly is not wearing the Atlantean armor. There was a brief scene in in Justice League, which was cut out, where he was meant to actually get the trident of King Atlan, to become king. But that was removed. So James Wan's like, okay, this crappy. So the 5-pointed one was meant to be Atlan's trident in Justice League, but James Wan's like, that's not a fucking trident, that's a quintant. Break that and then send him on a quest to get the actual one, which looks more comic accurate. And then you've got him coming up with ignoring the crappy Zack Snyder armor, coming up with the fucking.
Okay, but spoilers, this doesn't happen until like 20 minutes from the end of the film. It's like right at the end of the film.
I know, but it's just like, bit by bit, James Wan was jettisoning everything he could from the DCEU.
It's gonna be colorful, god damn it!
Yeah, and I was like, good work. I enjoyed seeing, his ridiculous costume on screen.
And there were little, I mean, you know me, because like I will focus on details, and one of the things that was really cool is when his mother and his father, first are meeting, there's this snow globe with a lighthouse, and it's perched on top of a copy of the Dunwich Horror by Lovecraft. Who looked at this goes.
And I maintain it should have been Shadow over Innsmouth.
No, and I'll tell you why. Because here's the thing: Shadow over Innsmouth, the fish people are evil.
And no, they're not evil. They love their families and children. They're very, very involved in their community.
They're coded as evil. Second of all...
They're only to outsiders. They're very, very into their own people, like the Atlanteans.
Hush. Second of all, the Dunwich Horror prominently features a half-breed. And that was one of the themes that was going through. Is that he's a half-human, half-Atlantean.
They're evil, too.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like a balance of, the whole great power and responsibility. I liked the world building. I really appreciated that. I don't know if that's comic accurate or not, so you'll probably say in the comments.
There's decades of comic sort of stuff, and a lot of it's contradictory, so...
Oh. Is it like Doctor Who, where like everything is...
No, DC, basically you get a lot of comics, stuff happening that's contradictory, because it's different writers on top of each other.
They reset the universe
and then they reset
years?
it every so often, and then whenever they do that, they quite often characters' exact origin change. Like Ocean Master, Orm, his entire backstory and who he is changes with every single reset.
I feel like when I first saw him, they wanted us to think as much as possible about King Joffrey and Draco Malfoy. Because that's the whole vibe that I got off him the whole entire time.
What do you call him? Mark Kermode, who is a British, not YouTuber, he's a pro film critic like from the radio and stuff, but I listened to his review of this, and it's like, holy fuck, Mark Kermode, you were right. He does look like young Julian Sands. He's an English actor who's not young anymore, but he looks just like Julian Sands, circa Arachnophobia, where he played the spider expert. I was like...
I haven't seen that since, like, middle school. But yeah, so, then there was, like, this princess, and she becomes the main love interest. Who played her? Somebody famous?
Amber Heard, that's Johnny Depp's ex.
Oh, right. I didn't like her hair color. Sorry.
Well, so she was fine. I mean,
no, because it was obviously dyed.
Yeah.
You could tell.
No, she was basically Ariel.
Yeah, that's what made me think of, like, I see. But the thing is that, like, I mean, she was a cool character, don't get me wrong, but, like, she was the love interest. I don't know if that's canon or not, but I was like...
Very nice water bending from her.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But I just... because he's such an asshole, and I'm like, really?
There was such cleverness in how they sort of, they got their thing, and they sort of, extrapolated from stuff. So you got the guys in, like... in armor with water inside. You've got lots of lots of fluorescence, which I absolutely fucking loved. But then they had
cool, like bioluminescent kind of stuff.
And you had a huge set of action scenes in Sicily, which is like, I really hope they bring a bunch of sunken Spanish gold to that fucking town, because oh my god, that small village.
Tear this village apart, like they like, and here's the thing is they destroy all of this ancient, architecture and stuff like that, and they like break down a bell tower, and the bell almost crushes a kid, and there's these wheeled nuns fervently crossing themselves, and like all these tourists running for their lives, and just they basically totaled that town.
And then you have this really random bit, because Aquaman saves him and Mera, played by Amber Heard, by putting them into a whale's mouth. And then he mentions Pinocchio.
Yeah, well, basically he comes and goes, wom, wom. He opens his mouth, and she goes, what did you do? He goes,
like cartoon accurate, like, sonar rings.
And then she goes, what did you do? And he said, I said the word for Pinocchio. And that struck me at the point, because I thought...
I didn't hear him say that.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay.
I'd heard him say, I said the word for Pinocchio. But then I thought about that, and I'm like, is he pulling the whole, like, Star Trek... you know, oh, whales are really, really super intelligent, because that implies that the way that at least one whale has a concept of the human tale of Pinocchio enough to understand, I know what you want from me. You want me to be like the whale in Pinocchio. But here's the thing, you know, I'm like, oh, maybe all the whales are talking about us. But then I thought, he's probably done this before. He may have implanted the schema for the plot of Pinocchio and the whale's role within, Montro's role within Pinocchio.
Could well be.
Into all whales. He is altering whale psychology. Because this is the kind of thing that I think about.
I did not notice that context to it. I thought he just mentioned Pinocchio like I'm doing.
That's
Pinocchio.
what I thought that I heard him say. If you heard different, but
so yeah, whenever transcripts, I'm like curious to see exactly what he says there. Yeah. But you know that works. But then after that, you know, they're in half a film later in Sicily. Mera gives this little girl a coin. She puts it into the fountain. Then Mera uses her water bending to create some, you know, make the water in the fountain turn into fish and stuff.
And dance and stuff.
And then the little girl runs off and grabs a book and gives it to her for no reason at all, and it's a copy of Pinocchio
in Italian.
And so I'm just like, that's a fucking huge big-lipped alligator moment, and it's like, why was that in the film?
And she's like, I thought you were clever, but you got this from a book. And he was like,
I didn't know there was a book.
Well, that's fair enough. You know, like, I've heard a lot of people, like, reference Disney, and you're like, oh, well, in the original Tale by Hans Christian Andersen, wait, there was a book? And you're like, so that's fair enough.
It's just the little girl just randomly giving her a copy of Pinocchio for no... The little girl has no reason to believe that the woman's responsible for the fish thing happening to the fountain anyway. It's just like, random little girl bestowing copies of literature to random strangers.
Oh, she gave me a magical coin.
Yeah, but still, it's like... in Italy, you apparently get gifted a copy of Pinocchio whenever, you know, just magical
national children's story.
But the score was simultaneously amazing and terrible.
Yeah, all of the actual orchestration was good.
Yeah.
But then the songs were pretty crap.
Yeah, the actual score was some nice synthy, almost like trance-like sort of dance music. Very, very, you know, sort of chill dance music.
And then they had that horrible cover of Africa. Like, just buy the rights. Look, we saw what you did with Suicide Squad. Buy the fucking rights and use the original if you want to use it, because that would have been fine. You know? And then, like, they get to Sicily, and there's, like, some cool kind of, like, almost some, like, Mediterranean-inspired music, and I was like, as they're panning in the drone shot, and I'm like, this is cool. And then someone says, and it was because of her, and I'm like, oh, shut the fuck up and die. And then, like, the ending credits, which, again, you know what they reminded me of a lot? Not Thor Ragnarok. One of the Marvel ones where it was like little scenes but slowed down kind of. Oh, it was Deadpool. That's what it was.
Oh, okay.
It reminded me of Deadpool. But like, and so visually, really great credits, but they had the songs like, born on the other side of the sea, you never knew what you could become. Like, shut up! Like it's 1999 or some shit. You know, that's the kind of thing that I would expect to hear playing over the end of like a late era PS1, early era PS2 Final Fantasy clone or something like that. It was so bad. And I'm like, you're doing things right, but other things are just grating on my spine.
The most painful thing for me was the incoherent historical world building.
Well, because you've been... Well, I've also been obsessed with ancient Greek.
Well, it's not just that. This is so obviously... Because apparently Atlantis fell at some point before the Sahara became a desert, when it was an inland sea.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm pretty sure... that was in, like, before the rise of the hominids. I'm pretty sure that was, like, Australopithecus africanus kind of, like...
At least
Homo habilis was a dream still.
At least with that would have given them time to, to evolve into the crazy crab forms and stuff. But the other problem is...
I'll get to that. I was thinking about evolution.
This had to happen, not only before that, but after the founding of Rome. Mm. Incoherent. With a couple of line changes, they could easily have been all like, well, Atlantis fell, and then like some of our survivors escaped to the land and became the surface dwellers. The others, then they could have, changed their little national treasure, like, sort of clues to get to the place, remove the Roman reference, and it would work fine. But as it is, apparently it's going to have to happen thousands upon thousands upon hundreds of thousands of years ago, but also about 3,000 years ago.
Or they could have used like, you know, some kind of like, because the thing is like, oh, it is only in the hand of the true king, so they go to where there's a statue of Romulus, you know, with his hand like this, and but the thing is though, they could have used like a piece of like, you know, like a naturally occurring structure, you know, like a sea stack or something, or like a mountain that, like, you know, there could be just one throwaway line by like a guide for tourists who only speaks a wee bit of English and say, oh, the name for our mountain comes from a very, very ancient word. It means the true king. We don't know where this word came from, and it's unlike any Etruscan word ever. And that's fine.
They didn't speak Etruscan there.
I was using an example because I was trying to think of a not like Babylonian kind of, but like not quite Rome. But the Etruscans were around for a long time.
Yeah, the Etruscans, they were basically...
They were northern Italy.
Yeah, they were Rome's rival before Rome really became giant.
Aye.
Something like that. They could easily just make little changes in their little scavenger hunt thing, and, you know, they could have removed this problem entirely. But as it is, it makes no fucking sense.
Well, I think the thing is that, confession, I've been spending the last week obsessively playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And there was a part, during one of his fights where I said, you know, if only he had the Spartan kick, this would go so much better. Because it only uses, 1 unit of adrenaline, and then you can come in for a few more slashes, build up your adrenaline for an overpower. But, yeah. I did really miss Assassin's Creed a lot, and I forgot why I started saying that, but... Oh, yeah, but so, and even there, spoilers for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I've found Atlantis, and... So I know what they're going for, that Atlantis is ancient and ancient and ancient, but there becomes a problem, because you can't make it more ancient than the ancient world. You can't make it more ancient than the Bronze Age.
Well, you can, because in the age of when the story was written down, it was meant to be thousands of years before that.
Yeah, but I'm talking on an evolutionary scale of maybe 100,000 kind of things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you can't make it. There's a point where you can't go any further back, because then you're like, okay, was there covalent evolution? Where did these hominids come from? But at the same time, you have to kind of tie it to the ancient world, to the Bronze Age world, because that's the first references we have of Atlantis.
Yeah.
So it's kind of...
That's why they should have gone for the very pseudoscience idea that Atlantis was the precursor civilization, and this is why both Egypt and South America had pyramids, man, because Atlantean architecture had pyramids. And that's an actual pseudo-historical idea that some idiots came up with, but they could have used that.
I saw a really great tweet on Twitter, obviously on Twitter, I think a week or so ago, that just said, just because white people can't understand that ancient brown people made something doesn't mean that it was aliens. Because, people don't realize that, maths existed.
But if they'd done it so that Atlantis was the original sort of race of humans, and the humans, the ones who stayed on the surface, became everyone else, then that would have explained why the Atlanteans were so dismissive of the surface dwellers. Because it's you guys are descended from surface dwellers, so you guys are taken from them. But if these guys are, you could hate them because they're crap versions of you who didn't come down and become the proper you. There
would be racial tension.
It would make their racial tension would make a little bit more sense, I think.
Now, going back to evolution, because I was also thinking about this. So there's a part in the beginning where he and Orm. I'm so bad.
Like the Viking from Norseman.
Right. So they're having a fight in this big kind of stadium thing that actually, it made me think of the Blitzball Stadium from Final Fantasy VIII. And all the people are yeah, but all the young men have modern haircuts. They have the puff on top with the shaved in the line, and cornrows and stuff. And I was like, could you not at least dress the extras up a little teeny bit better? Because they look like humans. You're supposed to believe this is a whole other thing. And I started thinking to myself, and I was like, well, it's kind of interesting. No. Because there'd be, hold on, I'm going somewhere with this.
I'm just letting you know, we have about 2 minutes left. Because the file will break up after a certain point. Okay, so no, just do your point, and then that'll be the last thing we say. Okay,
but this is a big evolutionary point. But so it's actually kind of very feasible that all the Atlantean kingdoms who split off and adapted to different environments would would adapt so quickly because adaptation is driven by amount of environmental pressure. The more environmental pressure, the faster stochastic shifts happen. The stochastic shift is a significant change in a population that is population-wide. For example, the descended larynx in humans, walking erect, etc.
Okay, cool.
The end.
No, so you have a little bit of time if you want to say something.
Like,
more.
some of them are crab people, and some of them are fish people, and some of them become horrible spiny abyss people. But I was also thinking about the evolutionary psychology of how hominids would have different, like, they would still probably have, like, language acquisition in the same kind of way, and they would still make eye contact for communication, so the hominid brain would be intact. But I thought, well, I wonder what little psychological things are, you know, the way that we are such a social species, what's inborn in them because they live underwater.
I think they would shave their heads and their whole body because they become more water dynamic, hydrodynamic.
Right.
But
it's 35 minutes. Now what's going to happen to us?
No, we're fine. We will wrap it up. It was a lot of fun. It was the best DCEU film.
Yeah, I actually liked it a lot more than Wonder Woman.
Like, Omega said it was the best DC film she'd seen since Tim Burton's Batman. I'd say since The Dark Knight.
I didn't really like The Dark Knight.
But The Dark Knight was like an accidentally
That's the one with
good
Bane
film.
right?
No, that was Dark Knight Rises. The one with the Joker.
Oh, that was alright. Wow.
It was like an accidentally good Nolan film.
Wow.
But, see you guys later.
Bye.